attende is the first word in the rule of Saint Benedict. It's at the beginning of religious life. Attende, listen, hear. Francis heard. He listened and he heard. And this was to dominate his life. And this is what we mean when we talk about a vocation being a call. It's hearing. What do we mean, however, by saying that Francis heard? To use an illustration of St. Bernardino da Siena, St. Bernardino gave an example from the Italy of his time, which was the 15th century. He continually roamed the country preaching. He said, if you came to an Italian city, to the piazza, the square, where people did most of their business and met, and talked, gave judgment, and you entered this piazza and you found a man hanging there, dead, you would ask, what happened? Well, he was caught stealing. The owner came as he broke into the shop. He stabbed the owner, who was critically injured. He's been caught, this man. Now he's been sentenced, and was common. Right down until the 19th century, he was hanged immediately in public. You ask, who is he? And you're told, well, he's a guy from, let's say in South African terms, Limpopo. And you don't know him. No, you don't know him. But you know his story, you know what happened, and you go. Bernardino of Siena said, let's start again. You come, man hanged in the middle of the piazza, stabbed someone, caught stealing, caught and sentenced, hanged, he is dead. And you looked at him swaying there in the breeze on a rope, hanged before the people of the city, with the children playing and pulling at him, as was the custom of the time. And you asked, where was he from and who was he? And you learn he was from your home village. And you knew quite well his family. And even this man you knew as a child. Bernardino said, now it's the same story, you know, but because you have so much contact with this man, you understand. But Bernardino of Siena said, let's start one more time. The same thing, a man hanging, swaying in the breeze, dead in disgrace, humiliated and laughed at, and killed. And you asked, who is he? And you're told, he's your brother, or your father, or your husband, or your son. Now, Bernardino of Siena said, you know, same story, you understand it, but now you feel it. And so we say, when St. Francis heard God, we meant in the third sense, he felt. St. Paul said, all of us know enough to go to hell. Some understand, and a few feel, and they're saints. And that was what St. Francis felt. And this is what the year of faith has been about. As Benedict XVI, in introducing the year of faith, he said Christianity is not just a code, or a moral code even. It's not just wise words or a nice tradition. Rather, Christianity is a real encounter, a profound and indelible meeting with Jesus Christ. Francis of Assisi had a profound experience of God. He was enchanted with Jesus Christ. If you read, is it 22 or 23 of the first rule, where he breaks into ecstasy, all good, supreme good, every good, trying to somehow express what God means to him. And this is at the very heart of Francis, how good God is, how beautiful God is. And this explains nearly everything else about Francis. But of course, it's probably more practical for us to know then, how did Francis experience God? How did he come to this profound relationship with Jesus Christ? Well, I suppose first of all, Francis, as a young person growing up, he gave expression to his natural virtues, the natural goodness that was in him. He was a generous person. Francis was a person who had empathy for the poor. These were gifts which he got from his family or from his own experience of life. Almost, you could say, natural gifts. Secondly, Francis, as life proceeded, had an experience of failure, or of the finitude or limitedness of human life. Remember him, he was in jail in Perugia for a year because he was seeking glory as a soldier. So he had a sense of the final emptiness, the absurdity of life ultimately. And also, and you see this even when he returned to Assisi, he continued with his parties, but he was never again satisfied with these parties. There was, after this experience of emptiness, ultimate emptiness, Francis was searching, he used to say, for a noble lady whom he was going to marry. But he was searching really for a wholeness in life, for a fulfillment, for a happiness, for a peace that he was not yet finding. Again, Francis embraced the poor. This is continually being emphasized by the present Holy Father again. The way to seek, and Bonaventure says this, the way to seek Jesus Christ is to go to the poor and the humble and the simple. To know about him, ask the theologians. There's two of them here on my left. I want to know about Jesus. Theologians will tell you about him. But go to the poor and simple if you want to meet Jesus. And Francis met him. He met him in the leper, story you know so well. In fact, below Assisi, even today, not so far from the Porziuncle there near Rivo Torto, you will find an old leper hospital, deserted and abandoned. There's a sign there which says, "Here the Franciscan order began." And as he was dying, this is what Francis was saying: "Let me go back to the lepers." Because there he encountered God. Again, Francis now began to pray. He began to pray, and it was torture to him. You know, and the devil used all his wiles to try and stop Francis from praying. And Francis found it very difficult to pray. And there was some poor old person that used to go into a church in Assisi and looked horrible, but spent the day in the church, and it came to Francis' mind that he would become like that person if he spent too much time in prayer. Remember, St. Clare had the same temptation, that her nose would go crooked if she spent too much time in prayer. The devil will try anything. But Francis persisted. Francis of Assisi, as Thomas of Celano says to Celano, Francis became a prayer. He persisted and succeeded. Francis of Assisi not only prayed, but he became a prayer. So he did, and it tells us, I don't know with what success, Thomas of Celano said Francis tried with all his power to get the friars to pray. I don't know how successful he was, but anyway, this is another step in how Francis found Jesus Christ. And then it's true, as I will say in a minute, Francis continually said, "The Lord revealed to me." But another step in this encounter with Jesus Christ was he discovered a church. He knew it was the only church that existed in that time, and he knew about it, but he discovered in the church the Spirit of Jesus Christ, the risen presence of Jesus Christ. And through the Bishop of Assisi was his spiritual director for a while. Even bishops can do good things sometimes. He went to the Pope. Also, he says, go to the poor priests of this world. I will respect them. I will never disobey them. And of course, Scripture above all. So Francis, yes, he listened individually and uniquely to God speaking and revealing to him. But he had a methodology of discerning whether that came from God or not. And it was through the church. And so 8 times